Welcome back to another episode from our show, Anything Goes. We continue our streaming from Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, and I'm welcoming the same group that came in last episode, where each one of them peculiarly, uniquely, have gone to many other countries in Africa, and today they are in Ethiopia. And I will excuse this episode from talking about Ethiopia, but we'll continue about talking about other countries. So again, we have Mark, Sarah, Michael, and Andrew. And since you have the microphone, I want to get back to a question that we partially covered the last episode. Is African mission a real service becoming a fashion? Anything wrong of becoming a fashion since people could benefit from? From your experience, what do you think? You went to a unique country that I don't hear much people going to, which is Namibia. But speak in general from your knowledge of other youth.
I definitely do think it's the cool thing to do. It's definitely become more popular in the last few years than I remember it ever being. I think there's definitely, you can only help by going. Having said that, I think that I think regardless of your intentions going, I think the fact that you do go is more important, just because you give yourself the opportunity to open yourself up for, even if you go just because it's a cool thing to do, all your other friends went, who knows, you might be there, you might see something that'll resonate with you, you might see something that'll not change your life, but it'll get you thinking about something. And so at the very least, you've taken something away from it you didn't really expect to.
Sarah, you went to several countries. You think you would recommend it to people, even if their intentions may not be as pure service?
I definitely think even if their intentions are not in the right area, they're just going because they think it's cool or because their friends are going. I think, like Mark said, that they can only help people. There's no really way that they can hurt anyone, because although they don't have the right intentions, they're still going to be able to interact with the kids, interact with the adults that need our help, like build houses, whatever you do on that mission trip, you're still going to be able to help. You're just not going to help yourself. And I think that the mission trips also just give you a new perspective and might change how you think. And personally, I know people that have gone on mission trips that weren't frequent church comers, and after the mission trips, they started coming to get more involved in the church and came to church more. So I think it still helps even though they don't have the right intentions.
Andrew, what's your comment on the same question?
I'm going to have to disagree with Mark and Sarah, because I don't feel that mission trips are for everyone. I think that some people can get what maybe we can get from a mission trip in the service in the US or wherever they are. I think that going as a tourist is not beneficial to the African people or wherever you're serving, to those people or to yourself. But on the other hand, I do feel that it's a huge spiritual benefit to those that go when the service is aimed at the benefit to those kids. So I think the most important thing when you're doing a service in Africa is at a sustained effort to help, not just you're going to go for 5 days, a month, whatever, and then leave, and then that's the last you hear of those kids. I think it's important to, when you're going on a mission trip, to know that you're going to be going where there's going to be a sustained effort in uplifting this community and helping these people.
Michael, what if I said, spend those 6 weeks serving in Bronx? Why Africa? Why going all the way across another continent? Do we have to do this? Is it becoming a must nowadays? I'm saying this, and we are in Ethiopia, so I don't mean to be, it looks unbiased, but in the same time, I want to put things into perspective, because sometimes I feel there is just a wave without boundaries.
Okay, my first point, I actually just wanted to comment on what they were saying. I think regardless of your intentions, whether it be that you're going for legitimate reasons or if you're going as a tourist, like Andrew said, I don't think people realize how big of a benefit you get out of it. Because a lot of people think that you're going to go and you're going to save the world, you're going to save poverty, you're going to heal everybody, you're going to make every kid happy for the rest of his life or her life. And that's a huge misconception, and I think that's something that needs to be broken down. You definitely receive more than you give. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Because the 3 days I'm spending with a kid at an orphanage will be fine. He'll have a great time for those 3 days, but I will remember those 3 days for the rest of my life, while this kid maybe will forget it and move on. With regards to, is it a must? I don't think it's a must, but I think it's kind of like a supplement. You know, I think in my opinion at least, I think it's important for us to focus our efforts at home, regardless where you are, whether it's in Egypt, Africa, America, because there is a need for service in your own backyard. You know, for people to say that I'm going to leave New York and go to Africa because there's need there, I think that's a little bit. I think you're overseeing a lot of things that are happening in your own place. You know, there's a lot of people who need. There's homeless people everywhere. There's people who want somebody to talk to every single day. It's not just in Africa where people have poverty that you're going to go and help. I think it's also in your own backyard.
I mean, we have Namibia, we have Nairobi, we have Uganda, and we have another also Kenya. Is there any other countries that you hear people are also going to? Have you heard of any other? I mean, I guess Ethiopia, because we're in Zimbabwe. Is South Africa also a place for people to serve? Yes. Egypt, we used to go for a lot of missions, except recently we are trying to reduce until politics really become more secure. I asked this question to Andrew last time, but I want to ask Sarah again. Do you remember either a very scary event that happened to you there, or something that shocked you joyfully or sadly that you will never forget?
In Kenya, we visited an all-male prison, and being a girl, it was really scary just to hear the fact that we were going to go to a prison. So when we first entered, like, these guys have not seen girls in however long they've been in jail, so they like screamed and cheered. So like we were all taken back, and we were like, oh my God, like we're gonna die here. And then it got better. Like it like made me realize like I like misjudged these people. They were the nicest men ever. Like they sang for us, and a couple of them came up and did a little skit for us about the crucifixion, which was really beautiful to see them do.
Excuse me, how did they do it? Just explain to me this.
Oh, there was the Jesus, and like people were like whipping him, and he pretending to hold the cross, and then there was one of the prisoners telling it in Swahili, which is their language, and then our translator would translate it to us like in English. So that was really nice to see that, like, even though they are in prison and it's a lot worse than prison in America, they're like still, they believe in Jesus, and they're trying to like show us that maybe they're in jail for the wrong, maybe they didn't do anything bad, that there's still good people in jail.
Mark, same question. Critical, joyful, sad, something that stuck to your memory, or someone that you met that really affected you?
No, I mean, I guess if it's someone, then it has to be the priest I was living with down in Namibia when I was there. Well, because when I got there, I was alone, like literally, like so desperately alone. It was weird. There was like I was alone in Africa. I'd only heard of this guy by name. He's picking me up from the airport, and now I'm living with him for at least another 2 weeks before anybody else comes from Egypt. So it made my transition a little weird, just because I'm getting to know, like living in a new place and getting to know my roommate, essentially, who's an old priest. Yeah, you know, like this, you know, what kind of roommate is that? That's weird. And so, no, like you get used to this guy's like habits, you get used to, you know, what he eats, like what time he wakes up, what times he sleeps, and like, old people wake up really early and they sleep really early, and so I was kind of on a completely different time schedule than him. But it was interesting because he was very, he was like a very like stressed out guy, so he would lose his temper sometimes when like the service stuff would go wrong, even from like little things, just because he's one priest in the whole country, so the guy had a lot on riding on him. But it was definitely it definitely taught me patience, because you literally had to deal with a guy like, I don't know you, you're straight up a giddu to me, and you're yelling like for no reason right now. Like, what is wrong with you? But once you got past kind of like the perceived like craziness, like this guy's just senile, he's nuts, like what am I doing here? I should go home. You actually like get to know it. No, I mean, me personally, like I really learned patience from this guy, and I mean, by the time I left, I was in love with this dude. Yeah.
And he was in charge of many
It was
villages.
one priest for literally the country of Namibia. It's like no wonder he was stressed out about stuff, like I'd be freaking out too. But he was amazing. There was so much stuff I learned from him. Yeah. So that's the one thing that the person I remember the most.
I need to know, how do we tell people, how do we know about missions? Each church has its own, sometimes they send missions, but there are churches who they do not have Father Musa or Father Gerges, or how do we hook them up? Andrew, do you have a comment?
I mean, we're here right now in Ethiopia because of Abuna Dawood and his ministry through the evangelism classes that he has held. And I mean, that's one really very well organized, very well established route for going down in missions. I mean, on the other hand, you could go where you just plan it on your own, where you have a priest with you or servants with you, and then you get in contact with someone from Africa, and then you establish that relationship and begin forming it. But it's definitely much easier on you and easier on your parents when it's someone that is, or something, an organization that's well known, well established, and knows its business where it's going.
Speaking of parents, you went to these missions, all of them, except this one, without your parents?
Yeah, I went with the Guatemala one. I went with a non-denominational church, and Egypt I went with the Orthodox Church, and Kenya Orthodox Church, and now Ethiopia with Abuna Dawood.
But without parents except this one?
Yeah, all of them.
Except the Ethiopian one?
Yeah, by ourselves.
And your parents were okay for you going to Guatemala?
Well, Guatemala, I was still pretty young at the time when I went to Guatemala, so my parents were definitely like calling my phone every 5 minutes to make sure I'm okay. But it was a well-established organization, so they were fine with it.
Michael, parents are pretty scared to let their kids go to faraway countries for missions. Would you recommend it to them, or would you tell their parents, are they right, are they wrong? What do you think?
Okay, so of course, I'm not a parent, so I don't know. Of course, they're going to worry because you're going to another country without them. At the same time, though, I think that there's always going to be some doubt or some skepticism as to where you're going or how safe you're going to be, and I think that's always going to be there. And I think they actually do have a right to be a little afraid about that. But at the same time, if I could say something to the parents, I would say that these experiences are truly once-in-a-lifetime opportunities. I know some of us go many times, but at the same time, you can't imagine how big of an influence it has on your life. It's not even just like that 3-month period after. It's things that they really do stay with you. And spiritually and just as a person, you grow and you become more involved in the service, even at home. So I definitely would recommend it.
And Mark, you kind of studied the evangelism class, am I right? Did you do it? How does this work, if you can? I mean, there is a website. How do you study the event? How do you become a student of evangelism and go through the course?
Okay, disclaimer, I wouldn't call myself a student of evangelism at all. Let's put that out there right now. Before going on the trip, I was told that some of the group that was coming down, they had completed a series of lectures and assignments and stuff. By the time I was going and found out about this course, I had like a week in between, so I kind of had like the abridged version of this program. So it was just, I would listen to lectures given by Abuna Dawood, actually in English, which are good. I never heard him speak in English before that. And you would do set assignments about it, just your understanding and stuff. And so that was my prep, like mandatory prep from them. I remember going to my father confession, being like, listen, going to Africa. What? Like, what do I do? What do, you know, where do I go? Like, what happens? So he gave me like a bunch of books, and I like threw them in my room somewhere. I didn't want to read them, but he was just like, dude, just read it. You'll have time. It's Pascha week. And there's like 15 Samos to Davids a day. Just read. You can finish a book before it's over. You know what I mean? So I got through like a couple of them before. So it really put some. It was prep for me personally. So that definitely helped me out before I headed out.
Michael, I know we spoke before about your trip to this village in Namibia, and it seemed that you went through many tough times. Can you share with us the things that you think were quite tough on you, or at least things that you were shocked to see or to have or to experience?
Yeah, so I went to Kenya. I think you said Namibia, but that's where no, it's okay. I was actually telling them a story that there was a commissioner in our town. The town was like about 100 people, really small town, and he became really friendly with us because we were like the new, foreigners in town or whatever. So he would take us around. He would take us to all these nice places and show us around Kenya and stuff. And he was a really nice guy. Like I didn't think anything of it. And one day we were driving to like a hotel basically, and he stops some truck on the road, and he gets out, and there's clearly a roadblock. This truck is not allowed to get in. But basically what they did, they kind of just did one of these. They did like a handoff. The guy slid him some money, and then he moved the roadblock. So like there's definitely like serious corruption over there. And then I heard another story where basically there's a lot of like sexual harassment and sexual abuse in these countries. And the problem is that a lot of these people are not accounted for because people just pay them off. So there was this one girl who we were serving in a school, and she had been raped, I think like 3 or 4 times by this one teacher. And this teacher actually fled. They can't find him. And basically they couldn't find him in the town when it happened, even though people knew, because he had a lot of money and he paid off this commissioner. So it's like, as much as these service missions teach you, all these things about Jesus, and you learn so much from these people, there's also another side of it that people don't really see, and that's the corruption that's in these places. And, of course, it's our goal to, go and try to be, lights to, these areas, but at the same time, you have to realize that these areas are very ridden with corruption.
Andrew, give me a final advice to those people who are like you, a medical student or in college, that they are considering going. Just tell me almost a preparedness kind of advice.
You have to get yourself ready. Mark said it perfectly. You really do have to prep yourself, prep your mind and heart to be willing to serve, to give of yourself, because it's not easy. I mean, we've touched on some of the difficulties. It's not easy. You're not going to have all the comforts of your home. So you have to really be ready to expend yourself for these people and expend your energy and your body, I mean, everything that you do, just to try to do your job while you're there. In terms of advice, I mean, it's worthwhile. Mike said it before. It's something that will change your outlook, will broaden your horizons like nothing else. It'll show you another side of the world, and really change how you view the world.
Thank you very much. Again, I hope you enjoyed sort of a journey through several countries: Namibia, Kenya, Nairobi, Guatemala, and very soon we'll be talking about Uganda, and we'll be talking soon about Ethiopia. And I hope this group have shed some light on how important serving others is, and this is a very, very Christian way of life, where you give when you can, from your time, from your feelings, from your money, from your efforts, and you labor for the other, and that's really the best Christian way. But in the same time, you need to balance that with occasionally overdoing things to the extent you lose sight with what exactly the objective of the trip. So this is really CYC in Ethiopia, and anything goes. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and until we meet again, have a great time, and thank you.